entrepreneurship wasn't something that I was taught growing up. It wasn't something that I learned in school. It wasn't something that in my family was passed down to us. You know, I'm the first one really to own my own business in my family, own my own businesses the way that I have. And one thing I had to learn was to understand sometimes people think that you don't need a financial planner unless you're rich. But I feel like you really need it when you're not, because you're trying to plan, your finances.
Hey, wait. I know you want to watch this next video, but listen, if you are an entrepreneur, business coach, business consultant, or a small business owner who has a story and wants to learn how to create multiple streams of income from your story, I need you to text me right now, my book, to 646-687-4152. That is my personal number. I have been an author for over 12 years. I've written 10 books. 4 of them have been bestsellers, and I've sold over 100,000 books. But I've also helped a lot of my clients take their expertise and put it into a story, then create multiple streams of income from that. So I want to help you do the same thing. So text my book to 646-687-4152. All right, let's go back to the video. So welcome to another awesome episode of Inside the Vault with Ash Cash, the greatest money mindset show on the planet. This is a special episode because we are literally inside, we're not inside the vault, but we are at a place of business, and we're gonna talk about the place of business. We're gonna talk about people who have bad credit. We're gonna talk about wealth. We have some legends in the building. We have a serial entrepreneur, the Radio Hall of Famer. We also have a financial journalist who's award-winning in the building with us. And this is a special episode because there are 132 million people in this country that suffer from bad credit. A lot of them don't have access to credit. And without having access to credit, their livelihoods are at stake. And if you understand how credit works, in order to get credit, you have to have credit. But if you can't get credit, all right. So we're gonna talk about that today. We have Miss Angela Yee in the building.
Hello.
Miss Stacey Tisdale in the building. For those who don't know who you guys are. We'll start with you, Miss Yee. Who is Angela Yee?
Well, right now we're in my coffee shop, Coffee Uplifts People, aka Cup, in Brooklyn. I'm from Brooklyn, and so I'm a native here, and it's been exciting for me. Like you said, serial entrepreneur. I first opened a juice bar almost 7 years ago. Now I have this coffee shop. It's been almost a year since we opened here. I have a hair store in Detroit. I'm also, like you said, Radio Hall of Famer, because you said it, from the Breakfast Club. But I do have my own show starting in January, Way Up with Angela Yee through iHeart. So I'll be leaving the Breakfast Club and starting on my own new endeavor.
Awesome. Miss Stacey.
What can I say? I'm the co-host of Wealth Wednesdays platform with Angela, which is a financial empowerment platform that we do through iHeart. And I've been a financial journalist for a very long time, and I just had the blessing of working at the greatest news organizations in the world. I started at Wall Street Journal Television, then CBS, then CNN, PBS, the Today Show, and I did a 6-year research project into what drives financial behavior and wrote a book about that. And I now have my own media company, Mind Money Media, and we produce content around financial empowerment, socioeconomics, financial behavior, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I was the first Black and one of the first women to report from the New York Stock Exchange.
Wow, legends in the building. And talk to me a little bit about this initiative this connection that you two have together, right? Just knowing, ever since you've been a radio personality and had a voice, you've always talked about entrepreneurship. You've been very vocal about home ownership and just owning and financial literacy. And you as a financial journalist, how did this connection where you guys start working together to make sure that you're intentional about helping others build wealth?
Well, I think I've struggled with finance for a lot of my life. And a lot of times I would tell myself I'm just not good with money. And we convince ourselves of these things when it's really not the truth. And when I met Stacey, I was just so impressed with everything that she's accomplished. I learned a lot from her. You know, I read her book and I was like, I would love for us to work more together. And Stacey's the type of person, like, I just hand her the baton and she's gonna run with it. And so once I told her that, she just started making a lot of different connections. We started doing in-person Wealth Wednesday events at my juice bar, Juices for Life, free events. You know, at first it was just us doing it, but then Stacey was able to really partner us up with a lot of different amazing corporations that were able to really benefit people and ensure that they could get their free juices, you know, and really make our program and working together way bigger. So it's a platform that we've grown over the years. I don't even know how many years it's been.
This is our 5th year.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, that's a blessing for me.
Yes, and just for me, the whole journey started as all, you know, based on what I've seen with money, based on the experience that I've had in my personal experience, nothing made sense. I knew that few things work as simply as money. Don't spend more than you have. Don't borrow more than you can afford to pay back. Don't invest more than you can afford to lose. But money, also a leading cause of depression, a leading cause of divorce, a leading cause of even suicide. So that's what really set me out into my research into, okay, what's really going on here? There's obviously a lot more to this than dollars and cents. And because I had access to the greatest minds in the world because of my career, I was able to really identify that when we're talking about money, we're not really talking about money. And really, there's 3 major areas of conditioning that affect all of our financial behavior. I call them money scripts, just like an actor follows a script. The childhood scripts, the way you saw money handled or not growing up. The social scripting, the social messaging about keeping up, gender, race. And because of that, the messages we tell ourselves, like people like me don't invest or whatever. And I was on the Breakfast Club one day, and the message was the Black mindset that investing is for the rich, and how that's not true anymore because fintech really leveled the playing field and gave access to entry with, you know, a few cents. And that message really took off, and I'll never forget the first time I was on the Breakfast Club and I sat down. And I don't know if it's sisters from another mother, but I started having such a natural conversation with Angela. I didn't realize we were on the air. And then, you know, just fell in love with her from day one. And when you watch what she has accomplished in that, everything she's telling you to do, she embodies it. You just saw her walk in here after being up for how many hours and just is present. And she gets uplifted by uplifting other people. And I just feel very blessed to have crossed paths and to be in that energy and that spirit, and then things have taken on a life of their own.
And the coffee helps. That's why I'm up.
No, I love it. You said something, Stacey, about race. And I remember reading a piece of yours where you talked about how racism and Jim Crow and Ku Klux Klan sucked a lot of wealth out of our community, especially when you think about the Black people going north to escape and the acres of land and things of that nature. Can you expound on that a little bit? On how whether it's racism, Jim Crow, these laws that had set us back, like how has that set us back from a financial perspective? And then now today, are some of those things still in place?
Yes, the financial history of Blacks. I'm actually working on a video series with this with another former CNN journalist, Tony Harris. I can't believe it's an untold story. The financial history of Blacks in the United States really started with the Freedmen's Bank when President Lincoln freed the slaves. And really it was the only place Blacks had to put their money. And those newly freed slaves, within about 10 years, amassed over $60 million in wealth. They became landowners, business people. They really created their own society. And the Freedmen's Bank collapsed largely because the government took that money and used it to build what's now the Treasury Annex building. So that's $60 million that we had put in the bank. Imagine going to the bank and it's just, sorry, it's gone. That would have been, by some estimates, about $8 trillion in the black economy today. Setback, that big setback. You had then the Great Migration, which largely because of fear of lynching, you had over 3 million blacks move north and walk away from land that is worth millions and millions of dollars. I just learned, because my son was doing a history project about my own family, that it was just that in action. My father never talked that much about his childhood. I assumed he was a sharecropper from Virginia. And it turns out his father was actually worked on an assembly line, and he worked next to a white man who would beat him every day with a bat. And if you knew my grandfather's like, stop, and I'm telling you one more time. And it happened again, and my grandfather responded, beat the, what out of the guy, and picked up the phone and told my grandmother, put the kids in the trunk and drive north. And they had to just leave everything. They left their house, their land, their family, everything. And that's how my family actually got to Connecticut. That's like everybody's story. So having to walk away from everything. You had, the government literally using the housing market to separate blacks and whites by redlining. And I think one of the biggest crimes is after World War II, the GI Bill, they gave everybody low mortgages and all these things to start the middle class, and blacks were just not allowed to participate. That's where generational wealth building in the middle class really started, and we were not even allowed to participate in that. Add to that things like predatory lending, and you see how and where the wealth gap happened and how it's systemic and how the system's really designed against us. So under that backdrop, black households in the United States earning $100,000 or more are like one of the fastest growing income groups according to Nielsen research. Black female entrepreneurs are the fastest growing, or the biggest group of entrepreneurs in the country. You had over the last 2 years, the number of first-time investors in the stock market were majority black. We're an incredible story of resilience, an incredible, incredible story of resilience. And I think that and technology was really the game changer by, just leveling the playing field in a way the government has never been able to do. So I think we're on a very positive trajectory. I think we are finally realizing that we can create our own financial system, and that's when you have real power.
No, I love it. I love it. Angela, talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on entrepreneurship, right? So, because we talk about the wealth gap, a lot of us are taking entrepreneurship as a way to say, forget the system. The system has never been on our side. The system hasn't been helping us, but we're gonna take entrepreneurship and use that as our tool to build wealth. And you as a serial entrepreneur, my brother Storm always says your job is your first business partner, and you've been able to, build wealth through, your job, but then also as a serial entrepreneur. Talk a little bit about that, like entrepreneurship. How is that the gateway to, creating your own economy?
Well, for myself, I've always had multiple streams of income. When I first graduated from college, heavily in debt, terrible credit, and just trying to pull myself out of those things. I will say though, even though in college I, had these bad habits, I was aware of them, and I was always like, okay, I have to fix things. I just didn't know how I would be able to do it. And a lot of us feel like that. And I feel like entrepreneurship wasn't something that I was taught growing up. It wasn't something that I learned in school. It wasn't something that in my family was passed down to us. I'm the first one really to own my own business in my family, own my own businesses the way that I have. And one thing I had to learn was, making the money that I make at what I do was what was able to allow me to invest. If I would have had to go out there and find investments and get people to, invest in me, I don't know that would have happened for me earlier. And that's a really difficult thing, because I think a lot of times for us, as Black women, like Stacey said, we're the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs and business owners, but we get the least amount of capital and the least amount of investment. So that's what makes it really difficult. A lot of times we also make less money. And so we're taking the money that we do make and investing in our own businesses. And even for myself, just having to deal with working with trying to get these loans and trying to get certain things accomplished. sometimes our businesses aren't even set up the way that they need to be set up to accomplish those things. And so it's been a work in progress for me. Thanks to Stacey, I really did start working with like the small business services and learning a lot of different things. Everything for me has been me learning as I go along. And I just feel like I've been on this entrepreneurship journey for the past, 7 years. And so I've learned a lot, and that's why it's really important for me to pay it forward, because I feel like if I would have known these things and learned these things earlier, I would have been a lot further along and not made some of the mistakes that I made as an entrepreneur. But I will say that I don't ever want to feel like I have to have this job or I'll never be able to retire or I need this or I can't walk away from anything. Right now, the way that I feel, I have multiple streams of income. Some of my investments haven't, returned any money to me yet.
Yep.
But I'm fortunate that other things have. And so there's that balance. And so, I am really lucky that I do have a job that can help finance these other things that I'm doing and that I do have other income so that when this isn't working, at least I know this is working. I've invested in real estate. And so I own certain properties that helps me finance other things because I have a condo that's paid for. I have a 2-family house that's already paid for. I have a house in Detroit that's paid for. I've done some flipping of houses too. And that's how I'm able to fund other things. I have not ever gotten an investment yet, but that is the next thing that I'm on the road to being able to do.
Your own bank.
Be your own bank. Smash out to my guy.
Some people would say don't use your own money though.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so here's where I'm going with that, right? Because a lot of people say, don't use your own money. And there goes the conversation about credit, right? And so, credit helps people, some jobs look at credit. To get an apartment, you need credit. To get a car, you need credit. And so there's so many things that you need credit for. But if you look at those who have poor credit, there's 132 million people in America who have bad credit.
No credit.
With no credit,
Or
right?
no credit,
Or no
yeah.
credit, right? And so you guys have connected together and created Stellify Credit Builder, a program. Talk to us a little bit about that program and, how is that program helping the 132 million people that actually have bad credit or no credit at all?
Well, we are founding partners in Stellify, and the founder is an amazing gentleman called Lamine Zarad, who I think was our first Wealth Wednesday with the company that he founded called Joust, which was for entrepreneurs. And it was such an interesting story. Joust provided banking services for entrepreneurs, and it also had this Pay Armor feature. What Pay Armor did was it instantly funds your invoice, and he would only charge you like 1% to 3% to fund the invoice. And he was telling me about this, and he kind of said that in passing, and I was like, full stop. I was like, black female entrepreneurs lose about 40% of their revenues a year because of unpaid invoices.
Wow.
I hate chasing down a check. Wow. As an independent contractor for different things, and you're waiting to get paid, and then sometimes people aren't paying you at all, and what are you supposed to do? Are we going to court?
And that they most entrepreneurs of color spend about 5 to 6 hours a week chasing down invoices. So I was like, whoa, I'm like, that's so perfect for our audience. And we brought him on Wealth Wednesdays and on the Breakfast Club. And of course, the message resonated as we expected it would. And Joust was soon acquired by a company called Zen Business. And Lamine stayed with them for a while, but he is a serial entrepreneur and loves to start things up. And he saw the need for this credit challenge that you're describing, 132 million Americans, and he's a genius. So he came up with the idea for Stellify. And I think we were one of his first phone calls, and he's like, will you go on this journey with me? So he's the founder. We were the founding partners, and it launched at the end of June. And Stellify is the most amazing credit building app out there because we help you build credit by helping you pay your bills on time. And on-time bill payment is 35% of your total credit score. There's a lot of companies that say that they do that, but this is the genius of Lamine. How he's created it is you sign up for Stellify at stellify.com, which I know you're all going to go do right now. And then we take over your account, your bank account, and we pay your bills on your behalf. So what does that mean? To the credit bureaus, the big 3 credit bureaus, who we've partnered with all of them, instead of you just paying your Netflix bill out of your debit card or your account, you paid Stellar Fi, and Stellar Fi paid it. So you get full credit as that being like you repaid a loan. Because the only way you build your credit score is by credit cards and loans. So that's the paradox. You have to go into debt to build credit.
And to be clear, there's also a lot of different FICO scores.
Yes.
And sometimes people will tell you other services that this will count towards your FICO score, but which are the ones that matter when it comes time to buy a house?
Yeah. And a lot of times, a lot of the other apps are saying that, this will help your FICO score, but they're really just letting the FICO and those companies know, oh yeah, they paid this, and it makes you look more positive to them. But this actually, when we pay your bills, it actually counts towards a loan. Wow. So you get very dramatic results quickly because things like child support payments, things if you pay them with a card, anything you pay with a card is your
gym membership,
your gym membership,
your
all of
streaming
that,
services,
all
that
of that gets counted towards your
Wait.
credit
So
score.
hold on. So
Even
you're-
your rent.
So you're saying, right? So credit, you got Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, three credit bureaus.
Partnered,
Yes.
You partner with them, and the everyday things that people are going to do anyway, as they do them,
you're gonna build credit.
you're going to build credit. Wow. And I love that because, like you mentioned, Stacey, right? So your credit is broken down into 5 categories. 35% is your payment history, 30% is your usage ratio. You have 15%, which is your how long you've had credit, 10% credit mix, the other 10% is any new credit. So the biggest part of it, which is 35%, which is where most people mess up, right? If you have bad credit, most people mess up there. You guys have been able to now find a way that everyday bills could
An interesting
count
thing
towards it.
about Stellarfi also is it's set up as a public benefit corporation. Most companies are set up to be for-profit. That means it's in their charter that their mission is to provide as much money as possible for their shareholders or for their investors. But Stellarfi, because we set up as a public benefit corporation, our mission is our cause. And our cause is to help the 132 million Americans who have poor, low, or no credit to build credit. Wow. So it's really...
And education is important to us also. And we've also teamed up with the NFCC.
Yes, this is something that's really important. The National Foundation for Credit Counseling is going to offer free one-on-one credit coaching for anybody who signs up for Stellarfi.
Because it is a set it and forget it, but then we also want to make sure people are learning as they're going on this journey to get, A1 credit, like myself now, because it was a journey.
Right, absolutely. And so talk about this initiative also, right? Because not only are you helping people build their credit, get that A1, like Angela Yee. I was gonna try to rhyme it, but I couldn't find nothing that rhymes. I know A, but get that A1 credit. But then also, you guys are giving away $30,000.
I know, that's right.
Out of Angela Yee's pocket.
That's right.
30K for the
Cash is giving away
30K for the holiday.
Hit him up, DM him. No, but seriously, we are going to be giving that away. It's going to be 6 people that get $5,000 each toward paying off their bills. You have to go to Stellarfi, go to our platform, and register there, and then that's where you'll see the information to be able to be eligible to win that. And that is until November 30th. You can enter.
The contest is announced November 30th, and like Angela said, it's $5,000. We're going to pay $5,000 worth of your bills for 1 year, and then for each bill you link and for each friend you refer, you get another entry. So go to stellarfi.com and sign up for that $30K for the holiday.
And so it's great because you guys were able to partner with the three credit bureaus. And so now it gets reported. But what advice would you give to somebody, right? So now they go through Stellarfi, they start to build their credit. And then now, at that space where they could start getting, credit cards or getting other types of credit, what advice would you give to somebody to, as they go on that credit journey? How do they, build credit and maintain a good credit profile?
It's all got to start with your goals. And like Angela mentioned about the different FICO scores, a lot of us, you'll get, you'll see your credit report, your credit score on your monthly bill payment from your credit card company or something. You'll be like, oh, I have a 710 whatever.
Until you try to buy a house.
Then you go into the mortgage broker and he's like, you have a 540 credit score. And you're like, what? I just saw 700. People don't realize there's 16 different FICO scores.
Wow.
And different lenders look at different types of FICO scores. So start with knowing what your goals are. And at Stellar we have an estimator right in the app. The app is also very educational. It's also got great content in it. And just figure out what you need to achieve. And if you have your goals in mind and you know, okay, I need this credit score to get that. I need that credit score to get that. Now my behavioral finance brain is turning on. It actually your brain will help you. And it will, you'll start taking the actions that are necessary in order to achieve them, because writing down a goal increases your chance of achieving it by 50%. Writing a goal and telling somebody about it increases your chance of achieving a goal by 90%.
Baby.
Accountability. And we are your accountability partner.
And I would also say, just be responsible. As you see things starting to happen, you see your credit score starting to increase, just make sure you stay on top of it. That's why I like Stellify, because it will make sure that your bills are paid on time. Like, honestly, one payment that is late could really be detrimental to your credit score, and then it stays on there for so long. I know, because like a while ago, I think like 4 years ago, I missed a payment on my, one of my charge cards, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. I had this card for like forever. And so I just want to encourage people to stay on top of it, and also just make sure you don't spend too much on your card. Just don't go overboard with it, guys.
I think a lot of times the psychological impact of debt is greatly overlooked. Like University of Nottingham found that people who have debt-related financial stress have higher blood pressure, anxiety, even higher incidence of heart disease and stroke. Debt impacts decision making. You might not move or do certain types of things. A lot of people might not get married. Student loan debt issues. So I think the most important thing to remember is debt doesn't make you a bad person.
And it can be embarrassing for people sometimes too. And I just want to encourage people to just open those bills. I was that person that I knew I couldn't pay it, so I didn't even open those bills, but take action. And I think that's what really helps. Sometimes you feel so overwhelmed and you feel like there's nothing you can do about it. But one of the first most important things is to actually make a plan and start taking those steps. And once you do, you'll feel so much better.
Yeah, and I want to go back though a little bit to what you just said when you talk about the psychological aspects of debt. Even now, right? When you turn on the news, there's all this sort of like talk about recessions, and the market went crazy this week, and a lot of, especially in our community, because of redlining, all of the things that have happened in our communities, we're afraid of. The banks. We're afraid of debt. We're afraid of even getting into credit, right? How does somebody get past that space? Like, how do they all right, what happened. I have to get into this financial system if I want to start to build wealth.
That's why I do what I do, and I did what I did with that 6-year research project. We can talk about money and we can tell you all the basics and the stories, but then there's the X factor of how we as a society let our financial situations, we associate it with character. And that was one of the lessons that we got from COVID, is all of a sudden people who were upper middle class earning 6 figures and their jobs went away are having to ask people to borrow money. They're having to, put their mortgages on freeze and something, and all of a sudden they're like, that's not what people like me do. That's what, bad people do. And no, it's not what bad people do. And it's not something external, it's something internal. You have to say, what were the early lessons I learned about debt? What are the messages I tell myself about debt? That's not who I really am. And seeing, there's no way out but up, understanding that none of these circumstances define who you are as a person. What are the main reasons people go into debt? Loss of job, divorce, and illness. None of that defines your character. Right. And it's just, money's greatest gift is that it can show you where you are and are not living in line with who you really are. And areas where you feel financial stress, or areas where the choices that you're making are not aligned with where you authentically are. And when you line those things up, the money part tends to fall into place. So the questions I tell people, particularly in our community, ask yourself, what do I see people like me doing when it comes to investing? What do I see people like me doing when it comes to debt? How would I have to, does that behavior get me closer to my goals? And how would I have to rewrite my messages in order to be who I am? And just the ability to think, the ability to learn, the ability to love, the ability to make decisions. These are things we were born with, and that's who you really are, our signature strengths. And nothing can make you forget your perfection quicker than money. Wow. So it's up to you to remind yourself of that.
Wow.
And I think even talking to somebody who is a financial expert, like Stacey, like I said, Stacey has helped me a lot. But to understand, sometimes people think that you don't need a financial planner unless you're rich. But I feel like you really need it when you're not, because you're trying to plan, your finances. And, you know, even there's people that I've helped in my family that have been embarrassed, but I'm like, I'm not a financial planner, but I can sit down with you and look at what you have going on, and then also refer you to somebody. See who you know, if there's somebody you trust that can refer you to somebody who they've used, somebody who's great, that has helped them out. I think that can make all the difference. It really is just taking those steps to make it happen, and realizing sometimes you may not know it, but the information is out there. And there are people even, you know, at your bank, or like we said with the NFCC, who can actually help you, and that's what they're there for. And when you sign up for certain services or you use a certain bank, they have those people there on call for you to just, you know, reach out to and get the help that you need. And there's nothing wrong with that.
That's why one of the first things we did with Stellarfy is to reach out to NFCC for this partnership to provide people with that free one-on-one credit coaching.
Yeah, no, I love that. And because you're absolutely right. There's a lot of financial shame, especially in our community. There's a lot of financial shame where people are believing they are, you know, their credit score, they are the bad decisions.
Some people don't even know their credit
And
score.
you said it right there. The dance and the way to get out of this is to change your relationship with shame.
Right. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. What would you say? I want to get in your business now. What would you say is the biggest money mistake that you guys have made so far?
Let me see. The biggest money mistake? Let me think. Because I feel like I've made so many, you know. I mean, I think I always wish I could turn back the hands of time to when I was younger and I was getting money, but not knowing, like, I wasn't investing at all. And, you know, people will always tell you the earlier you invest with the compounded interest, the more that you'll make. And I wish I would have started doing that way earlier. I mean, even at my last job, you know, they had a 401k match program that I wasn't even taking advantage of. Wow. And so I do wish I had started. I just didn't know, you know what I'm saying? And so I wish I would have done that earlier. I'm glad I did it, and it's never too late. Yeah. But sometimes you're like, man, or there's times that I have money and I could have, you know, bought a home, especially back then. And I wasn't even thinking like that. I was out here, you know, going on vacations, going to dinners, buying clothes and things that I didn't need. And those things were so important to me back then. But now I've realized that you know how you wish, like, man, I wish I wouldn't have bought, why did I buy this? Like, I never even wore this. Why did I get these things? And it's been a journey, and maybe I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't learned those really hard lessons. But I would say those things. And then I feel like one of my first businesses I ever did, I didn't set it up right from the beginning, as far as, you know, operating agreements and partnerships, and even setting up like payroll the proper way. And so a lot of times those things can hurt you. And I saw a lot of people having issues when it was time to get, you know, the PPP loans, who legitimately should get them, but maybe they didn't have the structure of their business set up properly. And I think that accounting is really important, and legal counsel is really important. So establishing those things to make sure that your business is right from the foundation of it, I think is really important. And I've definitely made mistakes along those lines. Yeah.
It said not realizing what my financial life was trying to tell me. And as a financial journalist, and before that I worked on Wall Street, I know a lot about money. Yeah. And it was almost something like, I'm going to teach this, I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to do this, and I wasn't doing those things for myself. I still struggle with that. I don't, not doing those things for myself. And at the end of the day, I think my finances were showing me where I didn't value myself. And that, as I, just started working on that piece. When I have financial trouble, I meditate more.
Wow.
And
Wow.
when I'm in a difficult situation, I meditate more. And my finances fluctuate. I'm a Black female entrepreneur who started a media company.
Right.
We might have a slow summer. I have a child who's, getting ready to go, starting his senior year in high school. I didn't know he.
About to go to college.
About to go to college.
That's how- can
We have good news about that
Yeah.
soon. Very soon. Very good news about that soon. And
Chris, what up, man?
yeah, his first financial literacy teacher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you're gonna have that slow summer where I had, like, this past summer I had to drop everything and to go with him for his travel basketball team and really try to get him over the finish line in terms of getting into college. And when I have those fluctuations, they used to throw me, and now they don't throw me. And one of the reasons that happens is I credit Angela and this thing that we've started, because we've been through so many ups and downs through this. Yeah. And guess what? Survived every single one of them. Yeah. And once you realize that it's gonna be okay and things do work out, then it gets better.
Yeah. And I love that you said that, because I think that a lot of people don't realize that money is emotional. And I love the fact that you say when you have money issues, you meditate, because I don't think people give enough credit to the emotional side of credit, to the mental side of credit. When you look at books like Think and Grow Rich, they don't say do and grow rich. It's really about thinking. It's really about getting in a mindset. Angela, talk a little bit about money mindset and why is having the right money mindset important, and at what points did you start to see like is there a correlation between where you are in your career and your mindset?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different things I would say. I feel like sometimes I would tell myself, I'm not good with money. I shouldn't be investing. I can't afford to do that. The stock market is not for me. That's for rich people. But like Stacey was saying, with fintech companies, I've been able to do those things. And I also feel like valuing myself and knowing my own worth. I remember there was a time when people would always ask me to link them with other people and help get certain deals done, and I would never ask for anything out of it. I would just give away my contacts for free or put people together, even show up for a meeting and get nothing out of it and not leverage what those relationships were bringing to the table. And it wasn't until somebody told me I was introducing him to somebody to get a deal done, and it was like a multi-million-dollar deal. And he was like, this is what you need to ask for in order to make this happen. If this deal goes through, you deserve to get this. And it was my first 6-figure check.
Nice.
And that was something that really did give me the confidence to be like, you know what, I should be getting paid for this. This is something that is valuable. And I think sometimes we don't value what we do bring to the table as far as relationships. And the other thing that I would say is making sure that, we go in and get the money that we deserve. And that's something that I always advocate for, because even for myself, going in and asking for raises, that's something that I have no problem doing. But it used to be hard and intimidating for me to talk about money and tell people what I feel that I deserve. Because you're like, man, I don't want to ask for that. What if they feel like that's too much? What if they tell me no? And I think now, valuing myself and knowing that this is not something I'm asking for a favor. This is something that I deserve. And this is something that, I've laid down the groundwork for me to say, this is what it takes for me to be able to come to the table and do what it is that you need me to do. And so I'm a lot more confident in being able to talk about money. Sometimes we don't want to do that. We're like, oh, don't even worry about the money. No, let's worry about that.
Right. Yeah. And so if I hear you correctly, your level of self-worth has increased your net worth. Right, yeah. By that confidence that you have.
And knowing I can say no if I don't get it. Yeah. Knowing that if you're like, well, we don't have $10,000, but we can give you $500. Like, no, well, I'm okay. I don't need that. Yeah. Because at the same time, you don't want to set that set that price.
Right.
And then people are like, I got her to do it for, you know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right,
And so
yeah.
I just think these are all lessons that you learn. And look, I also learned money isn't everything.
Yeah.
And there's times that things are important enough to me that I'll do it because this is something for kids. This is something for education. This is so there's definitely times that I'm like, this isn't even about that.
Yeah.
So just knowing what's important to you and what's valuable to you and, setting those standards for yourself.
Yeah, no, I love it. What would you say is the most impactful thing you guys have done with money?
I'm trying to share our stories. When I worked on Wall Street, and then I became a financial journalist. And I'm Black and I'm a woman, in case you didn't notice. And I remember Roger Ailes, who was the head of Fox. I was trying to get a job, an anchor position there, and he just looked me in the eye and he said, "You simply don't look like a financial expert." And I just went to Matt with him and I said, well, you're going to have to change your definition of what a financial expert looks like. And then everywhere I went, that was never going to be a battle I was going to win. I was the first on-air business correspondent for CBS Market Watch. That means I did all the CBS shows, but the affiliates, those Southern affiliates still wouldn't air my business report. And I grew up in a very dramatic situations of racial isolation. My parents, like all parents, wanted the best for me, so I went to a private school, all white, only Black in a private school when I was little. Then when I was 11, I had a talent for figure skating, and this coach who lived in Colorado a very famous coach wanted me to work with me, so I moved to Colorado, Lake Placid, Janesville, Wisconsin. I think I was the only person in the state of Wisconsin at the time that I lived there, only Black person in the state of Wisconsin. And one thing parents have to be really careful about is not so much what your child is going through, but the coping strategies that they're developing. So I learned at a very age to assimilate. I learned at a very early age to try to the most important thing was for people to like me. And how did you do that? If you take blame for things, and it was interesting to me to see all these things play out in my career. And even, when I was at CNN, and then I don't share this often, but the reason I left CNN is my mother was dying, and she was in a hospital at Columbia University. And I did a morning show. I had to be at the NASDAQ on set at 6 a.m. to Carol Costello's show. And my mom had a heart attack at 4. So I raced up to Columbia. She had her heart attack. I just wanted to show my face to her, and I got to the set at 5 minutes to 6. I'm a business reporter, so I have producers, which is great, but I always do my own research and whatever because I'm the business expert, and I didn't that day. And I just flew into the chair, and I took the notes that my producer gave me, and CNN had decided not to reveal a certain name on air. And I didn't know that decision had been made. She hadn't updated or checked her notes, so she gave me my notes, and I said the name, and I'm sitting on air. I see all the lights start lighting up on the phone, and that's it. Wow. And that's it. And then when my boss was like, "Did anybody tell you to say that?" He was trying to help me. He's like, "Did anybody tell you to say that?" And I said, "Just forget it." And I took the blame for it. That's when I had this wake-up call. I'm like, where did that come from? And then I saw an article in the New York Times. It changed my life. It was called Admit It But Not Accepted. And it was about that whole dynamic of racial isolation and how kids, especially kids who get into schools through affirmative action, and they're the only reason you're here is because of affirmative action, and what that does to them. And I didn't realize this had all was happening inside of me, too. And it's perfectly reflected in your financial life, like not asking for what you're worth and not believing what you're worth. And it was those things changing. And it doesn't change, like we talk a lot about mindset and thinking. And what I learned and what my book's about, it's not your thinking or your mindset, it's realizing your patterns. It's actually getting out of your mind and saying, oh, there's that message that, investing is only for the rich. That's not who I really am. It's being able to recognize your patterns so that you don't step into them and get the same results. And that's what money can teach you, and that's what my journey is teaching me. And the more I learn it, the more wealth comes into my life.
No, I love it. I love it. All right, so before we wrap up, somebody right now is watching, they're starting their financial journey and they want to build wealth, they want to, maximize their full potential. What advice are you giving them?
Be diverse. That's what I would say. That's always worked for me. I own real estate. So like I said, that's been, some great investments for me where I feel really secure and stable in that. That allows me to feel like I have certain money that I can play with because I know that part is really stable and has increased in value so much. So I've invested in the stock market. I have long-term investments, but then I also have things that are shorter. And also philanthropy, I think, is really important. And so the more that you're able to get, the more that you should be able to also help other people with. Be intentional about where you spend your money. I'm really intentional about where I open my businesses, but also businesses that I support, organizations that I support. And so, it shouldn't be a one-way street with you just trying to get money and not pouring back.
I'm going to give everybody a quick little exercise because for me, it's all about goals. And think about these 3 questions. First thing, all the money in the world, what would you do with your life? Next question, you go to the doctor, you find out you have 5 to 10 years left to live. It's not going to be a painful, long, drawn-out sickness, but 5 to 10 years. 5 to 10 years left to live, what would you change about your life? Where would you be? Who would you be with? What would you be doing if you find out you just have 5 to 10 years left to live? Last question. You go back to this doctor. We do not like this doctor. And he tells you, this is it. Today's your last day here. It's not what would you do on your last day? The question is, what do you regret? What do you regret not doing in this precious life that's about to end? When you think about those questions, they help you clarify what's important. And you're going to start to see, gosh, I spend a lot of money and time on things that are not authentically important to me.
Wow, that's good.
And then ask yourself why. And that's just starts off I won't get into neuroscience, even though I'd love to talk about it, but that really starts off a process in your brain where you start aligning your finances with your choices. And always ask yourself these 3 questions. Can I afford this? Is it in line with my spending? And if not, why am I doing it?
Wow.
And then trust yourself. Faith.
I love it. Here you have it. We have the Radio Hall of Famer, the financial journalist, award-winning. The legends are in the building, gave you some powerful information. Again, where can they sign up for Stellarfi?
Go to stellarfi.com. Sign up. When you sign up, link your bills. A lot of you have signed up, but go through the process of linking your bills. And you really want to do it right now because she's giving away $30,000.
That's right. You have till November 30th to enter the win. So
That's it. Miss Yee, where can the people find you?
At Angela Yee on Instagram, on Twitter, Team Yee on Facebook, because I do use Facebook a lot. And of course on the Breakfast Club for now, but starting in January on Way Up with Angela Yee.
Very excited and proud of her for that. And you can follow me on Instagram, Stacey Tisdale. And we are just launching a Wealth Wednesdays Facebook group for entrepreneurs. And go to Angela's Facebook page and you'll see how you.
All right, y'all, we are closing out the vault. Another powerful episode of Inside the Vault with Ash Cash, the greatest money mindset show on the planet. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at Inside the Vault. Follow me at I am Ash Cash, and I'll see you next time, same place, in God's will. All right, y'all. Peace.